I'm Shari Rash, and welcome back to our Back to School, Back to Budget mini-series. Think of this episode as your fall money cleanup. We're going back to basics: cash flow, savings, and debt. I'll show you how to spot money leaks, freshen up your budget, and get those financial fundamentals working again. Now, if you caught last week's episode, we talked about shaking off that summer spending hangover and getting back into a solid money routine. Hopefully, you've already done your August statement review, canceled at least one subscription you weren't using, and set up that basic September budget. If you haven't done those things yet, don't worry. You can still benefit from today's episode, but I'd encourage you to go back and listen to episode 1 after this. Today, we're going a step deeper with what I'd like to call your Fall Financial Checkup. Welcome to Everyone's Talking Money, where we get brutally honest about money, mindset, and making life richer. Think of this as the money version of your yearly physical exam, but I promise it'll be way less awkward, no needles, no one's making you step on a scale, and you won't have to wear one of those paper gowns that never stay closed. Here's why this checkup matters right now. We are heading into one of the most financially challenging times of the year. Between back to school expenses, fall activities, Halloween, Thanksgiving travel, and then the entire holiday season, which seems to have actually started right now. Netflix, I'm not complaining about all the Christmas movies you have, but it does seem a little bit early. The next 4 months, though, can absolutely demolish a budget if you're not prepared. But here's the good news. A little bit of financial awareness now can save you from January's credit card hangover. And unlike summer spending, which tends to be spontaneous and fun, fall and winter expenses are largely predictable. We know they're coming, which means we can plan for them. So today, we're getting back to the basics: cash flow, savings, and debt management. I'll show you exactly how to spot those sneaky money leaks that drain your budget, how to freshen up your budgeting approach so it actually works with your real life, and how to make sure those financial fundamentals are supporting your bigger goals instead of working against them. But here's the truth. When life gets busy, and fall is definitely a busy season, we tend to stop checking in with our money regularly. We just go on autopilot. We are in survival mode. And this autopilot survival mode is where financial problems multiply. But fall is the perfect time to course correct before we head into the holiday spending season. So let's first talk about why the basics are your foundation. Let me start with a story that I think you'll relate to. Last week, I had a client, let's just call her Sarah, who came to me completely overwhelmed. She had been trying to optimize her investment portfolio, researching the best high-yield savings account, and comparing different credit cards for rewards points. She was spending hours every week on these financial details. But when I asked her some basic questions, like how much money was coming in and going out each month, or whether she had enough savings to cover an emergency, she couldn't answer. She was focusing on the financial equivalent of choosing the perfect paint color for a house that didn't have a solid foundation. And this happens all the time. We get that shiny object syndrome. We start looking for credit card rewards and high yield savings accounts. But what's really happening is that money gets complicated fast. Between bills, subscriptions, investment accounts, Venmo requests, automatic payments, and that random Amazon order you don't even remember placing, it feels like money is moving in 100 different directions at once. But here's what I've learned after years of helping people get their finances together. At its core, your financial health comes down to just 3 fundamental basics. First, how much money flows in and out. This is your cash flow. Are you spending less than what you earn? Where is your money actually going? Most people think they know this, but when they dig into the details, they're often surprised. Second, how much you're keeping. This is your savings rate. Are you paying yourself first? Do you have an emergency fund? Are you prepared for predictable future expenses? And lastly, how much you owe. This is your debt situation. What do you owe, at what interest rate, and what is your plan for paying it off? These three things are like the vital signs your doctor checks: blood pressure, heart rate, and oxygen levels. If these are healthy, everything else tends to fall into place. If they're problematic, no amount of fancy investment strategies or premium budgeting apps will save you. The beautiful thing about focusing on these basics is that they are completely within your control. You can't control the stock market. You can't control interest rates. You can't control inflation, but you can absolutely control how much you pay attention to your cash flow, your savings rate, and your debt management strategy. So today, we are going to check your money vitals, and I'm going to give you specific, actionable steps to improve each one of them. All right, let's dive into cash flow, which is simply this: what's coming in versus what's going out. It sounds incredibly simple, but I'd estimate that 70% of people don't actually know their real cash flow numbers. They may have a rough idea. They know their salary, they know their rent and mortgage payment, but they don't have a clear picture of where all the money in between is going. And this lack of awareness, my friends, is where the real financial stress lies. So here's your fall cash flow assignment. And I want you to actually do this, not just think about doing it. Step 1, gather your data. Pull up one full month of financial statements, ideally last month. So August, if you're listening to this in September. I want you to look at everything: your main checking account, any other bank accounts, all credit cards, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Apple Pay, anywhere money flows in or out of your life. Step 2, calculate your true income. Start with your actual take-home pay. That reflects taxes, health insurance, 401k contributions, any other deductions. That is your true cash in, not your salary. If you're self-employed or have irregular income, use an average from the last 3 months. This is your spending power. Step 3, categorize every expense. Now list every single expense from that month and put each one into one of these 3 categories. Needs. First thing that comes to mind, your non-negotiable expenses: housing costs, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments, basic clothing, essential medical expenses. These are the things that keep you housed, fed, safe, and functional. But here is where traditional budgeting fails us. We only factor essential needs into our needs. But I'm sure there's other things in your life that you really need to spend your money on. It may just save your sanity that day by running through the drive-through instead of waiting to come home to cook dinner at 9 o'clock at night. It could be purchasing something for your child for their sport or for their school. That's a need. That needs to be done. So don't feel restricted by just classifying your needs as your basic, fundamental, essential expenses. This is other stuff too that needs to get purchased. And that, again, is where traditional budgeting fails us. So be honest with yourself. I needed to buy a yearbook for my kids this year. When they sent home the flyer, come May, if I did not buy a yearbook for my child, it would not have been a pretty sight in my household. That is a need. That is not a luxury. That is not a want. I needed to do that for them. Some of you may be rolling your eyes and going, that's not a need, and that's okay. That was a need for me and for my house. But the point is don't restrict yourself. Be honest with yourself in what your needs truly are. The second category is wants. These things make life enjoyable, but aren't essential. Like we can live without it if push came to shove. Some may say dining out is a want, but like I mentioned, if we needed to go through that drive-through at 9 p.m. at night to have dinner so we didn't have to go home and cook it at 9 p.m., that's a need for that day. So, but maybe the 2 and 3 times we're dining out each week, that may be a want. That can be considered as extra. Entertainment, streaming services. But again, be honest with yourself. I say it all the time. Netflix is a need in my household. That's all my kids watch. If I took that away from them, it would be crazy. All hell would break loose. So that is a need. But Hulu or Disney Plus isn't a need. That's a want, but we need Netflix. Gym membership, some people could say that's frivolous, but that may be the only time you leave your house during the day because you work from home, or that may be when you are seeing your friends or having conversations outside of work, outside of the members of your household. So again, is your gym membership frivolous? If you're not using it, it's frivolous. But if that is a source of happiness and getting things done, feeling like you accomplished something, it contributes to your health, mental and physical, then that might not be a want. That may be a need. So again, ask yourself these questions. Shopping for non-essential items is a want. Hobbies could be a want. But again, it could also be a need, right? If that's your main form of socialization, if that's your way that you go out and you see people, you see your friends, that's your mental health. Could some aspects of your hobby be a want, but another part of it could be a need. So again, don't just restrict your needs to the things you need to what traditional budgeting tells us we need to survive. We need to look at what we need for our lives to be healthy mentally, physically. Some subscription boxes can be considered wants. So anything that if push came to shove, we could do without it, that is a want. And then lastly, your wishes, or what I say, anything that grows your net worth, savings and debt payoff. So money going towards your emergency fund, money going to your retirement accounts, paying extra on your debt, saving for specific goals. Those are all wishes. That's it. 3 categories: needs, wants, wishes. Step 4, do the math. Add up each category and see how they compare to your take home income. So here's what you're looking for. If your needs plus wants equal more than your income, you are spending more than you make. You have a negative cash flow. This might be obvious from growing credit card balances, but sometimes it might not be immediately apparent. Your needs, if you are paid twice a month or biweekly, your needs should take up 1 paycheck approximately. It doesn't mean all of your needs come out in the first half of the month or in the second half of the month, but quick eyeball, your needs should be around the same amount that one of your paychecks are. If it's more, you're going to need to look for ways to reduce your fixed costs or increase your income. Another red flag, if you have 0 going to your wishes, you are living paycheck to paycheck. Even if your checking account balance seems fine, you are spending the exact amount that you are making because you are not saving anything and you are not contributing anything extra to your debt. So again, your needs should be roughly 1 paycheck if you are paid twice a month. Your wishes and your wants should be approximately 50-50 of your second paycheck. That is just a real quick way to eyeball where your spending falls. Step 5, look for surprises. This is where it gets interesting. When you actually add up all those small expenses, like those wants, those nice to haves, what surprises you? For example, you might discover that you spend $300 on coffee and quick lunches when you thought you're only spending like $100 a month. Or you might find that you have 6 different subscription services that you're paying for, but you only actively use 2 of them. I had one client who discovered she was spending $180 a month on various subscription services, everything from meal planning apps to meditation apps to streaming services. She got the free 7-day trial for, but then forgot about. That's over $2,000 a year on subscriptions, most of which she wasn't even using. I had another client realize that they were spending $1,200 a year on wine. They had wine shipped to their house every quarter or so, but they really never knew how much it was. And thankfully, they were doing this exercise with me right around the time that they were getting that bill, and they canceled it immediately. They said, no one needs to spend that much money on wine in a year, and we don't even like it that much. Canceled. Boom. $1,200 right back into their checking account. Another client realized he was spending $400 a month on DoorDash and other food delivery, but he thought he was being good about eating out because he wasn't ever eating out. He could never picture himself sitting in a restaurant or going through the drive-thru. But DoorDash and delivery is eating out, even though you're at home. The convenience of app-based ordering just made it invisible that he was just spending this money. Awareness is a very powerful thing. And I'm not telling you these stories to shame anyone about their spending choices. The goal isn't guilt, it's clarity and awareness. And once you know your true cash flow, you can start making intentional decisions about where you want your money to go instead of just wondering where it went. And hopefully, my stories show you you're not alone. You are not alone in like, where is my money going? Or I don't spend that much money on DoorDash. You are not alone. We are all guilty of it. We have all have things that we need to eliminate in our spending. But if we don't shine a light on it, we never know it's there. Maybe you're going to decide that your coffee runs are totally worth it because they're part of your morning routine that keeps you sane. That's great. But maybe you also decide that you can cancel 3 subscription services you're not using and redirect the money towards paying off debt or building an emergency fund. And this is a very important point because once we identify that money and we're canceling the subscription or we are reducing the expense, don't just replace that expense with another expense. Send that money to your wishes. Send it to your savings account. Send it to your credit card. Send it to your debt payment to get out of debt faster. Reward yourself for making these sacrifices and for doing the work of shining a light on your spending and getting rid of stuff. And here's a pro tip if you're already overwhelmed with everything I've just said to you. If the idea of tracking every single dollar makes you want to close this podcast, pretend you never heard it, I get it. Here's a simpler version. Just do a quick 30-day snapshot focusing on the big categories. Now, let's talk about savings. And I need to be real with you about something. Fall is absolutely the perfect time to check in on your savings situation because expensive season is coming. Think about what's ahead in the next 4 months. Back to school expenses if you have kids, fall clothing, Halloween costumes and candy, which the candy is so expensive, it's crazy. Thanksgiving travel or hosting costs, holiday gifts, year-end charitable giving, New Year's Eve plans, and then January comes and you're doing no spend January, punishing yourself as the bills keep rolling in. If you don't have a solid savings foundation, these predictable expenses are going to end up on credit cards, and then you'll start 2026 with debt instead of momentum. So let's assess where you stand and create a realistic plan to build your savings cushion. First, the emergency fund check. So, first question, how is your emergency fund looking? And I mean your actual emergency fund. Money sitting in a separate savings account that you do not touch. It does not get accessed when your checking account gets low or you just need a little extra money. I'm talking money that's put away with lock and key. Could you cover one unexpected car repair without going into debt? What about a medical bill that insurance doesn't cover? Or what if you lose your income for a month? If the answer is no, or if you're not sure, then this is your number one priority. But here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to set some impossible goal like, I need to save $10,000 for emergencies, and then get overwhelmed, feel like you're never going to be able to do it, and save nothing. Instead, start with what I call a mini emergency fund of $500. That's it, just $500. This small amount creates breathing room for life's smaller 3, 2, 1. This small amount of money creates breathing room for life's smaller emergencies and breaks the cycle of relying on credit cards every time something unexpected happens. Your credit card is not your emergency fund. And these one-off expenses that people put on their credit cards are the main reason why we have so much credit card debt. Once you have that $500 saved, you can then work towards 1 month of expenses. And we already know what that is because we calculated our needs and our wants. Then I want you to move up to 3 months. Then creep up to 6 months if that feels right for your situation. If you think you have enough emergency fund with 4 months worth of expenses, that's fine with me. You have to do whatever feels right after we factor in the correct math. Now let's talk about the sinking fund strategy. Emergency funds aren't the only savings you need. You also need what are called sinking funds, money saved for predictable future expenses. And this is where most people get tripped up during the fall and holiday season. They treat holiday gifts like they're emergencies, but they're not emergencies. We know they're coming every year. And they're also the emergencies that we just put on our credit card. We're not saving ahead for them. Here are the sinking funds I want you to consider setting up right now. First, a holiday fund. How much do you typically spend on gifts, hosting, travel, and holiday activities? Take that number, divide it by how many months you have to save, and start setting that money aside right now. A winter clothing fund. If you live somewhere with real winters, you know that every year you need to buy coats, boots, gloves, or other seasonal items. Plan for it. Annual expenses fund. Things like car registration, insurance premiums that you pay every 6 months or annually, holiday tips for service providers, tax preparation fees, HOA expenses, all of those bills that come in that are big and you're like, oh, really? I have to pay this now? I don't have the money for this. Home maintenance fund. If you own your home, fall is often when heating systems need maintenance, gutters need cleaning, or other seasonal maintenance comes up. The beauty of sinking funds is that they turn big, stressful expenses into manageable monthly savings goals and make your savings automatic. This is the key to actually building savings. Willpower and keeping your money in your checking account and just saying, I'm not going to spend it, I'm not going to spend it, is not a savings strategy. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings account. Even if it's just $20 a week, that's over $1,000 a year. If you can do $50 a week, that's $2,600 a year. The amount matters less than the consistency. Tiny, regular moves are what actually build financial strength over time. I want to address something that might be going through your head right now. Shari, I can barely pay my bills. How am I supposed to save money? I hear this a lot, and here's what I've learned. Most people who say they can't save money are actually already saving money. They're just saving it for other people. They're saving money for credit card companies by paying interest. They're saving money for subscription services they don't use. They're saving money for convenience stores by buying overpriced items instead of planning ahead. The goal is to redirect some of that money toward your own future instead of everyone else's profits. Okay, now it's time for your debt reality check. And this is the third vital sign. And I know this might be the part that some of you want to skip because debt can feel overwhelming and shameful. But here's the truth: debt is just like a tool. And like any tool, it can be used effectively or ineffectively. The key is understanding exactly what you're dealing with and having a clear plan for managing it. Fall is a great time to face your debt situation head on because if you ignore it now, it's going to sneak into the new year with even more weight, literally and figuratively. So, step one, the complete debt inventory. I want you to write down every single debt you have, and I mean everything: credit card balances and their interest rates, student loans and their terms, car loans, personal loans, money borrowed from family or friends, medical debt, any other money you owe. For each debt, write down the current balance, the interest rate, the minimum monthly payment, the expected payoff date if you only pay minimums. Most people carry their debt information as a vague, anxiety inducing cloud in their heads. But when you put it all on paper or in a simple spreadsheet, it becomes manageable data instead of overwhelming emotion. You might be surprised by what you discover. Maybe your total debt is less than you feared. Or maybe you realize that most of your stress is coming from one high interest credit card that you can focus on paying off quickly. Step two, choose your payoff strategy. Once you have your debt inventory, take a deep breath. It's okay. Now you need to pick a payoff plan and stick with it. There are two main approaches, and both work. The key is just choosing one and being consistent. The first is the debt snowball method. Pay minimums on everything, but put any extra money towards the smallest balance first. Once that's paid off, take all the money you were using for that debt and apply it to the next smallest balance. The advantage? Quick psychological wins that build momentum. When you pay off a debt completely, you feel accomplished and motivated to keep going. Next, payoff strategy is the debt avalanche method. Pay minimums on everything, but put any extra money towards the debt with the highest interest rate first. The advantage? You'll pay less money in interest over time, so you'll be debt-free faster and save money. Both methods work. The snowball method is better if you need motivation and quick wins. The avalanche method is better if you're motivated by saving money and being mathematically optimal. Step three, find extra money for debt payoff. Here's where that cash flow analysis from earlier becomes really useful. Look at your expenses and find money you can redirect towards debt payoff. Maybe it's those subscription services you're not using. Maybe it's reducing dining out by one meal per week. Maybe it's selling items you no longer need. Maybe it's picking up a small side gig for a few months. Even an extra $50 a month can make a huge difference. So I don't want to hear you say to yourself, it's only $50, it's only $25, what difference can it make? It all adds up. For example, if you have a $3,000 credit card balance at 18% interest, paying just the minimum will take you over 30 years to pay off and cost you thousands in interest. But if you add just $50 extra per month, you'll pay it off in about 4 years and save thousands of dollars. So here is your challenge for this fall. Commit to making one extra debt payment, even if it's just $25 or $50. It doesn't matter which debt you choose. The point is to break out of minimum payment mode and get back in the driver's seat. That small action sends a message to yourself. I'm not just managing my debt, I'm actively working to eliminate it. So now let's talk about money leaks, those sneaky little expenses that drain your budget without you really noticing. Think of them like small holes in a bucket. Eventually, 3, 2, 1. Individually, they don't seem like a big deal, but collectively, they can sabotage your entire financial plan. The most common money leaks I see are unused subscriptions and memberships. That gym membership you haven't used since March, the premium version of an app when you could use the free version, the streaming service you signed up for to watch one show and then forgot about, those are leaks. Bank and credit card fees, overdraft fees, ATM fees, annual fees on credit cards you rarely use, monthly maintenance fees on checking accounts, convenience spending, buying items at convenience stores that cost twice what they would cost at a regular grocery store, paying for premium gas when your car doesn't require it, buying bottled water when you could use a reusable bottle. Autopilot spending, continuing to pay for services or products you used to need, but you don't need them anymore. Like that premium cable package when you mainly watch Netflix, or that expensive phone plan with unlimited data when you're always on Wi Fi. Here's your fall money leak challenge. Set a timer for 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, and do a subscription and recurring payment audit. Go through your bank and credit card statements for last month. Look at anything that charges you automatically. Check your App Store or Google Play purchases. Look at subscriptions like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, gym memberships, magazine subscriptions. For each recurring charge, ask yourself, am I actively using this? Is this worth the cost? Could I get the same benefit for less money? Then cancel at least one thing. Even if you only save $10 a month, that's $120 a year that you can redirect towards savings or debt payoff. I had one client who did this exercise and found she was paying for 3 different streaming services, but only watching one, a premium meditation app she used twice in 6 months, a meal planning service she signed up for during a particularly busy month, but never ended up using, and a fitness app subscription where she was already paying for a gym membership. In 15 minutes, she freed up $47 a month. That's over $550 a year. The key is to be ruthless during this audit. You can always resubscribe to something later if you miss it, but most of the time, I hate to break it to you, you won't even notice these services are gone. Okay. So we've done the cash flow analysis. We've checked in on our savings. We've assessed your debt situation, and you've plugged some money leaks. Now, how do you put all of this together in a budget that doesn't feel like financial jail? First, let me tell you what doesn't work: perfectionist budgeting. You know, those budgets where every single dollar is allocated to a specific category, and when the categories have subcategories, and where you're supposed to track every expense down to the penny, and you go $5 over your grocery budget and it feels like a mortal failure. Friends, we are not doing that here. Those budgets work great in theory and terrible in real life because real life is messy. Real life has unexpected expenses, forgotten bills, and impulse purchases. Real life has months where you spend more on gas because you had to drive to 3 different family events out of state. So instead of perfectionist budgeting, I want to give you 2 simple frameworks that work with real life, not against it. Option 1, the 50-30-20 framework. This is beautifully simple, and we've kind of already done it. 50% of your after-tax income goes to needs: housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments, and those other things that we have identified as needs that are in fact needs. 30% goes to wants: dining out, entertainment, shopping, hobbies, streaming services, the stuff that if push came to shove, we could do without. and 20% goes to savings and extra debt payments. The beauty of this framework is that it gives you guidelines without micromanaging your spending. As long as you're roughly hitting those percentages, you're doing fine because you know you are living a life. You are enjoying your life because you are spending on wants. You're not living outside of your needs and you're still saving. If you're spending 55% on needs and 25% on wants, that's still totally fine. If you're spending 40% on needs and can put 30% towards savings and debt payoff, even better. The key is to make sure your needs and wants together don't exceed 80% of your income, so you always have something going towards your future. Option 2, the BFF Budget, Budgeting Financial Friend. This is my framework for people who hate traditional budgets. Instead of tracking multiple categories, you just have 3 buckets. Bucket number 1, essentials. This covers all your must-pay expenses: housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments. These are non-negotiable. They have to get paid. You have to spend this money. Bucket number 2 is fun money. This is for everything that makes life enjoyable: dining out, entertainment, shopping, hobbies. The key is deciding on this amount ahead of time and sticking to it. Budget 3 is future you. This goes towards savings, extra debt payments, and financial goals. This is how you pay yourself first. Think of it like having a best friend who keeps you honest without being judgmental. Your BFF budget says, take care of your responsibilities, go ahead and have some fun, but don't forget about your future self. Whichever framework you choose, here are the keys to making it work in real life. Build in buffer. Don't allocate every single dollar. Leave some unassigned money for the unexpected stuff. Review and adjust monthly. Your budget isn't a contract written in stone. If you consistently overspend in one category, either find ways to reduce spending there or adjust your budget to be more realistic. And focus on the big categories. Don't stress yourself out if you spend $52 on groceries when you budgeted for $50. I'm just proud you were in the ballpark. Do pay attention if you're consistently spending way more than planned on major categories like housing, food, or entertainment. And automate what you can. Set up automatic transfers for savings and automatic payments for fixed bills. The less you have to remember, the better. And now, here is the most important thing to understand about budgeting. A budget isn't about restriction. It's about direction and intention. I'm going to repeat that again. A budget isn't about restriction. It's about direction and intention. You're not punishing yourself by creating a budget. You are actually being very nice to yourself. You're giving yourself a roadmap so you can spend money on what matters most to you without guilt or stress. A good budget should feel like relief, not restriction. It should answer the question, can I afford this? With confidence instead of anxiety. When someone asks if you want to go out to dinner, instead of panicking about your finances, you can quickly check your fun money bucket and make a decision. If there's room, go enjoy it without guilt. Order this dessert and an appetizer. If there's not room this month, you can suggest a less expensive alternative or say, hey, let's do it next month. That's financial freedom. Not about having unlimited money, but having a clear system that lets you make confident decisions about the money you do have. Before we wrap up today's financial checkup, I need to address something important. The voice in your head that might be telling you that you're behind, that you should have had this figured out already, that everyone else has their financial life together except you. That voice is lying. First of all, most people don't have their financial lives completely figured out. The ones who seem like they do have simply developed consistent habits around monitoring and managing their money. And that is exactly what you're doing right now by listening to this episode and taking the action steps. Second, the fact that you're doing this fall financial checkup means you're choosing to face your financial reality instead of avoiding it. That is not something everyone else does. That takes courage. Here's the truth about financial progress. It's not about perfection. It's about consistent, small improvements over time. Maybe your cash flow analysis revealed that you're spending way more than you thought on certain categories. That is not failure. That is valuable information you can use to make better decisions going forward. Maybe your savings account isn't as robust as you'd like. That's not a judgment on your character. It's just your starting point for building better savings habits. Maybe you've discovered that you have more debt than you realized, or you found several money leaks in your budget. Again, this isn't failure. This is the foundation for positive change. The goal isn't to have a perfect financial life. The goal is to have a conscious financial life, to be aware of your money patterns and make intentional choices about how to improve them. Every small step you take, canceling one unused subscription, making one extra debt payment, setting up one automatic savings transfer is progress. And progress, accumulated over time, becomes transformation. All right, that is your complete fall financial checkup. You now have a clear picture of your cash flow, your savings situation, and your debt reality. You've identified money leaks and have two simple budgeting frameworks to choose from. Next week, in episode 3 of our Back to School, Back to Budget series, we're going to talk about smart spending strategies for the busy season ahead. Because between sports fees, school events, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and the holidays, fall and winter can absolutely demolish a budget if you're not strategic about it. I'll show you exactly how to forecast your expenses for the next 3 months, how to set up those sinking funds we talked about today, and how to spend with intention instead of guilt during the most expensive time of the year. In our final episode, episode 4, we'll create your winter financial strategy so you can finish this year strong and set yourself up for an amazing start to 2026. So let me give you some homework for this week, because knowledge without action is just entertainment. 1, do your cash flow analysis. Pull 1 month of savings, pull 1 month of statements, and categorize your expenses into needs, wants, and wishes. Step 2, assess your savings. Check your emergency fund and identify what sinking funds you need to set up for fall and winter expenses. Complete your debt inventory. Write down every debt with balances, interest rates, and minimum payments. 4, do the 15-minute leak audit. Find and cancel at least one recurring expense you're not using. And 5, choose your budgeting framework. Decide whether you want to use the 50-30-20 rule or the BFF budget and set it up for next month. That's it. 5 concrete actions that will give you a complete picture of your financial health and set you up for a strong finish to the year. If today's financial checkup was helpful, please share this episode with someone who could use a money reset. And make sure you're subscribed, because next week's episode on smart seasonal spending is going to save you from holiday financial stress. I promise. Remember, you don't need perfect finances. You just need conscious finances. And every step you take towards financial awareness is a step towards financial freedom. Remember, money is a tool to help you live life on your terms. You just need to become aware of it.